if we're looking at the less pretty PowerPoint, right, on slide 6, you can see why we're not going to be using, right, weak notions of the miraculous for this particular argument, but you will see that some of them tend to go along with the notions of intelligent design, right? So the idea is that maybe even our current understanding of like evolution, right? A lot of theists might say that it can't account for the complexity of the human eye. Like it's just so much more complex and so much more amazing than what natural evolution could possibly, provide in that period of time. And again, depends on what you think is possible, right? What do you think is possible given your understanding of the laws of nature versus what is not possible within them? That's going to determine then what you consider to be a miracle, right? Is the evolution of the human eye a miracle, or was it just something that was always possible? Or is it only possible because God had a hand in it, right? So, right, there's lots of different ways we can answer that question. Good. So yeah, you can see there's an example here of like an incurable disease, right? So leukemia, right, does not have a man-made cure, right? We do not have a cure for leukemia. So let's imagine someone's leukemia goes away, right? There are different potential explanations that one could give, right? Natural cure cannot yet be explained, but we can't rule it out, right? So maybe someone just remains agnostic about it, like, oh, I just don't know, right? We just may not know what happened yet. You could think, well, there's no cure that could have occurred, right? So maybe you're just like, nope, I don't even believe a miracle has occurred. They still have leukemia. You could just be in denial of the violation itself. You could think that maybe it was just a misdiagnosis, right? So it's still, I'm not going to let my understanding of the laws of nature be violated. I'm going to say that we were wrong to begin with, right? So in cases of the miraculous, maybe our beginning beliefs were incorrect. And so that's why we can't explain this direct result. Or you could say, right, like the final doctor in this example, that a non-natural cure, right, has come to be, and that the only potential explanation for that would be, right, that's the natural theologian. It's a non-natural explanation. It must be some divine entity, right? Something with omnipotence, right? Something with great power that can override the laws of nature. Okay. So then again, we must ask, right, what exactly does this prove, right? But again, that's going to totally depend on what you think is possible. Okay, so under that condition then, right, sort of anything could be a miracle, depending on what you think is possible, right? So you want to figure out what your understanding is before you dive into these arguments, right, to consider how persuasive they're going to be, right? What exactly is going to constitute a violation enough, be miraculous enough to potentially consider only a non-natural cause, right? Only a supernatural cause. All right. So I don't know. Let me take a break here. Anyone willing to share, even if like, what would it take? What would you have to see to say like, wow, that is a miracle. Like that is a violation of a law of nature. Can't be like a magic show, right? Because we know that that's fake. Those are illusions. Sorry. But what would it take? Well, that's another potential worry, right? Is if you think, again, Christine Overall is going to make this point. If these laws are supposed to govern patterns, then as soon as you violate that law, you've broken it. It's supposed to be a non-breakable law. So if it's broken, then it was never non-breakable to begin with, right? So yeah, it's challenging, right? So what could be considered miraculous in a previous paradigm, right? Like we were saying with that Aztec example, under a new paradigm, not miraculous, right?
Yeah.
Totally explainable. And this is, again, important. If any of you study the history of science, you'll learn about Kuhnian paradigms, right? So this is how we refer to a moment in
Sorry,
intellectual
my internet
history.
connection in the library is unstable. Sorry about that.
No worries. Hopefully you guys are able to hear me okay. But the idea here is that, right, that paradigm kind of governs how most scientists view reality, right? That's their metaphysical picture. So there was a Newtonian revolution, right? They changed the paradigm. And then we had Einstein's paradigm shift, right, with relativity. So this was a shift because it changed our fundamental understandings about what the laws of nature are. So you're absolutely right, right? This is all contextual based on our knowledge. So what is considered miraculous now, we might think would have to withstand paradigm shifts, right? It should be considered miraculous under any paradigm. Like nobody should be able to explain this thing. So do we have anything like that? Can we think, or even if you haven't seen it, can you imagine, like, what would it take? What could satisfy that requirement? My sci-fi brain is like, I'm like trying to think of something like that was so cool, like maybe some sort of like shapeshifter thing. Because I mean, the closest we have in the physical world are like chameleons, but they can't like change their bone structure, like some of the transformative sci-fi characters. I don't know, that seems like a violation of law of nature. I'm not even sure. Here's another crazy thing. I'm not even sure reanimation from death is considered strong miracle anymore because of what we've learned from ocean life. Like how many aren't there like a couple of species where they're like the phoenixes of the oceans, right? Like they die, they break down to like their basic biological structure and then they regrow, like they come back to life. It might be some sort of octopus or something, but like there are things that do that, right?